Good evening. My name is Glenda Carr. I am a co-founder of Higher Heights and the president and CEO. And so we are so excited to kick off our 2020 The Road to the Primaries and Beyond Black Women Lead webinar series. And it just hit me that I'm so excited that this is the first one, because when Kimberly and I first drafted up what we thought Higher Heights could be, one of the first people that we met with was actually Rockeymoore Cummings. And so this is a full circle moment to think that this organization was built for this moment is exciting. So welcome to Higher Heights for America PAC. Higher Heights is the political home for Black women, helping to build and unleash the organizing power of Black women from the voting booth to elected office. And this is a webinar series featuring our 2020 endorsed candidates. And so this evening is going to be an intimate conversation, with Rockeymoore Cummings, an opportunity for her to introduce herself to some, and those who know her and her track record, the tools you need to help her lead at the polls next week, Tuesday, February 4th. And so we are excited that people are joining us. Just some housekeeping. If you are on the webinar, you can, let's do a roll call. So who and where are you dialing in from and logging in from? So go to your attendee chat room and tell us where you're watching. If you are listening via text, you can still be in communication with us. You can text us at 646-206-5931. Maya is also going to be taking questions, and so you can, again, if you're on the webinar, leave a question or words of encouragement in the attendee chat, or again, text at 646-206-5931. And finally, although this is an intimate conversation with members and supporters from across the country, we want to bring our networks into this conversation. So if you are active on social media, please tweet about Maya and her candidacy in ways that you want to be engaged and how you're feeling on this amazing call that we're going to have. Tag at Higher Heights PAC, so that's at Higher Heights PAC, and at Maya for Congress. And as always, hashtag Black Women Lead. So this evening, I had the distinct pleasure to talk a little bit about why Higher Heights has been chosen to endorse Rockeymoore Cummings for Congress in Maryland 7. As I mentioned, she's someone that I've known professionally, it's been over 10, 15 years. And, I'm a former staff member on the state level, was the chief of staff of a state senator in New York. And Maya has extensive policy background and Hill background as a staffer on the federal level. And for me, one of the things that we should be encouraging is for amazing staff members and policy analysts, those who really keep the halls of Congress and the halls of State House running and producing amazing legislation and, frankly, blocking legislations that are not beneficial to our communities and our nation, start at the foundation of amazing, talented staff. And so we should be encouraging lifetime public service in a variety of ways. And I think she in our political action committee believes that she is literally the person for this moment. We are living in some of the most politically toxic and racially divisive times in my generation. And I think we need to be poised to have candidates that are ready to hit the ground running with fresh, new, and innovative ways to ensure that we are making sure that Black women are living in economically thriving, healthy, safe, and educated communities. So who is Rockeymoore Cummings if you don't know her? She is, like I mentioned, comes from a military family and has a strong background in policies that affect all Americans, but particularly a lens around African American women and girls. She's has attended Prairie View I'm an AME, so I don't know why I just want to be like AME. AME University, a historically black university, and is a member of Delta Sigma Theta. I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, so we love you. And has, as I mentioned, spent time on the Hill in various roles as chief of staff of a congressional member from my state, New York, and has lent her expertise and background at national organizations like the National Herbal League. She's also a business owner. She's set up an amazing think tank where she is helping to innovate around policies that are affecting Americans across the country, and particularly Social Security. As many of you are aware, she is the widow of Elijah Cummings and has, like in the spirit of Shirley Chisholm, decided that she wanted to take her leadership to another level in an elected position. And so in 2015, she announced her candidacy for governor and shows that was not and she'll tell a little bit, I'm telling all her story. So I'm gonna let her tell her story. But she is, again, the person for the moment with the background and has built an infrastructure in not only Baltimore, but as the state Democratic chair across the state. And as many of you are aware, around Black women's growing leadership, one of the places that we have seen some growth over the last cycle is that we see more Black women running for party leadership. And party leadership is an important role because it is also how we ensure that we are recruiting, training, and supporting a reflective candidate pool. And so we're excited that she put herself in that candidate pool and is running for election in Baltimore, Maryland. And so we are excited to introduce you to some and for you to be engaged in conversation for others, Dr. Maya Rockeymoore Cummings.
Thank you so much, Glenda, and thank you to everyone who's joined us this evening. I just want to say, Glenda, I remember when you came to visit me in my office and you talked about this concept called Higher Heights for America, and I was so captured by the idea that, I was just like very, very enthusiastic about the program. And so I just want to say thank you. I never imagined that I would be one of your beneficiaries. I always knew that I wanted to be a part of your influence network. And so now I have the best of both worlds. And so I want to thank you, your board, and your membership for actually endorsing me. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Can you keep it down a little bit? For actually endorsing me. I'm so sorry. And so I find myself in this race. As you know, I lost my spouse on October 17th, and we buried him on October 25th. On November 12th, I announced my race to build on his legacy in the United States Congress. And then on November 15th, I underwent a preventative double mastectomy. And I had spent 3 weeks in recovery and then came out full blast into the campaign. And with that, you should know that this campaign it's a real race. There are 23 Democrat races and an additional 8 Republicans. Our early polling that we did in November showed me that I was a front runner. It also showed that as long as I got the word out about my qualifications, then I win the race. And so with that, it is a horse race in this case, with, a primary challenger being someone who has served in this role previously. And so with that, I'm just very excited. I feel like we are in a very good position. But I am running to build on Elijah's legacy. As you all well know, when Elijah and I met back in 1998, I was already in the trenches. We, of course, our relationship evolved over the years, and for many years we were in the fight together. And he expected me to actually continue fighting, and that's exactly what I'm doing. He stood for universal health care, and I'm doing the same. Of course, he stood for reduced prescription drugs, and I'm advancing his Elijah E. Cummings lower prescription drug cost now bill. And he also stood for defending and protecting our democracy, and that's exactly what I stand for. But I do think, as Glenda mentioned earlier, that I am of this moment. We are at our nation's zero moment with Donald Trump and his Republican Party that is absolutely focused on taking us back 100 years. They are seeking to divide neighbors from neighbors. They are seeking to uplift this white nationalist history. They are seeking to take women backwards, people of color, LGBTQ. They are seeking to uplift Islamophobia, certainly homophobia, and of course, anti-Semitism. And so, we have to basically put the lid back on the Pandora's box of hate that Donald Trump unleashed. And so I believe that my mission on this planet is to drive society toward inclusion. And so I'm ready for this battle. I'm ready for this fight. Some of you know that I've been in the policy world and the advocacy world for a very long time as well. And so I am building on additional areas of focus and expertise, things that I think that need to be addressed in the Baltimore region. Baltimore, as you very well know, is, it's the region is comprised of the city. It's comprised of the Howard County and Baltimore County. This is a very diverse region. We have a lot of needs in the city itself. Gun violence is a major issue. So is poverty, and structural inequality is keeping, I think, too many people down and back. And so I recently, actually just today, came out with a HOPE agenda for the Maryland 7th Congressional District. And that HOPE agenda is an acronym. H stands for Healthy and Safe Communities. O stands for Opportunities for Youth. P stands for prosperous families, and E stands for equitable development. And so, just to quickly run through, the gun violence issue is a major challenge. I plan to, of course, stand for, of course, stricter gun laws at the federal level. But I also plan to take on the battle of making sure that we are leveraging public health approaches to gun violence reduction. And so I'll be seeking to bring trauma-informed programming to the area through federal investments, as well as other strategies to take on gun violence at its root. I also believe that Black women especially our health has been overlooked with regards to the national research agenda. I mean, anytime you're in a room with African American women, there are a significant number who have experienced things like fibroids or breast cancer or alopecia. And frankly, the medical science knows nothing about any of these things. They don't know why lupus and other autoimmune disorders are plaguing us at disproportionate rates. And so I plan to push that kind of agenda, a women's health agenda that's absolutely comprehensive on the research side, but also focuses on making sure that we're defending our reproductive health rights, making sure that we are certainly also uplifting the need to protect women against violence and trafficking. Opportunities for youth. We don't have enough things for young people to do in this region, and so they're getting into trouble. It shouldn't be surprising, but there are a lot of federal levers that I seek to pull in that space, making sure that we're improving our educational system, providing alternative pathways to living wage jobs, such as apprenticeships and certifications and entrepreneurship. And of course, making the appropriate investments at the early education level. Those are just some of the things that I seek to do in the opportunities for youth space. Of course, making sure that we're also expanding investments in out of school time opportunities. And then process families. Everybody knows that I've stood for a very long time for expanding and strengthening Social Security. I'll be continuing to push that, but I'm excited about universal family care. Elijah and I, for the last 2.5 years, I have been his primary caregiver. And so while I had respect for caregivers before my experience, my own personal experience, I have now a profoundly different relationship to the caregiving experience. And I think that we're not doing enough in this country to help caregivers, not on the child care side, not on the adult disability side, not on the senior care side, or even on the long-term care side. And so with that, universal family care is something that I will be pushing and pushing hard. I will consider it a signature program. And then finally, on equitable development, of course, climate change is a major issue here in the area, given that we are on the Chesapeake, the largest estuary in the United States, but also, making sure that we're getting to a net net zero energy future, as well as a carbon neutral future, is something that I plan to take on, as well as making sure that we're leveraging the appropriate federal investments and addressing these abandoned, boarded up homes in Baltimore, and making sure that bringing them back online and making them productive so that we can increase our tax base, provide affordable housing, and uplift the entire region. So with that, that is my agenda. I want to just briefly tell you that, we have a very unusual race here. There are literally 4 races in the period of 10 months. February 4th, which is on Tuesday, is a special election primary. So recall that my late spouse died in the middle of his term. And so February 4th will determine the Democrat that gets to basically take a Republican on to fulfill his term, the rest of his term. On April 28th, there are actually 2 elections. My name will be on the ballot twice. It will be on the ballot for the special election general, which will determine the runoff between the Democrat and the Republican. And it'll also be on the ballot for the regular primary, which will determine who gets to serve for the 2 years beyond Elijah's term. And so, that's going to be interesting as well. And then whoever wins the regular primary will then go on to November 3rd. I will face off with a Republican on November 3rd. So just to know that whoever wins the special election process will take office in May of 2020, and that they will stay in office until January of 2021. Whoever wins the regular will then take office in January of 2021, and they will serve for 2 years beyond that. You should know that I have been endorsed by Emily's List, Baltimore Women United, the Democratic Workers of America, and of course Higher Heights. And I'm very appreciative of all these endorsements. But this is what I need. I need your time, I need your treasure, and I need your influence. In terms of time, we need canvassers, we need phone bankers, we need people who can help to come to Baltimore and help us to basically drop off all this literature, making sure that we're connecting with voters and distributing as much literature as possible this weekend. We also need poll workers to work the polls on Tuesday. So, anybody who has the ability or the inclination to come to Baltimore, we would welcome your participation. In terms of treasure, donations, I'm up on air. I'm pleased to be up on air. We have a beautiful television commercial that's running, but it takes money. As you all well know, commercials are very expensive. And so literally, we're going to need to replenish our coffers as soon as possible. So all donations are welcome. Because I'm in 2 primaries at once, that means that the max for me federally is $5,600, $2,800 per primary. And so, any amount would be welcome. And so I just wanted to share that. Influence. Okay. Twitter. All you social media folks. We have a digital campaign going on. I want you to, when you see our ads and when you see anything pertaining to my race, please either retweet it or share it on social media, Facebook and Instagram. That's going to help extend our reach, and we're absolutely looking for, amplification at this point. Also, if you do decide to donate to me, I ask that you actually tweet that you donated, or put it on Facebook that you donated, and share the link with others so that they can be encouraged to donate as well. And then also, if you have anybody living in the Baltimore City region, Baltimore County, Howard County, I encourage you to call them, tell them about me, and ask them to vote for me. Ask them to vote on February 4th and twice on April 28th. So with that, I just want to say a word about my late husband. Elijah was a beautiful man. I loved him to life. I miss him deeply, and I will miss him for the rest of my life. But he knew, and wanted me to continue the fight. And that is exactly what I'm doing. I am ready to lead. I've been in the trenches for a long time, and I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get the job done. And so with that, I just want to say thank you again to Glenda and Higher Heights, the board, and all the people who are on the phone tonight. And I welcome your questions.
Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your vision not only for the district but also the country. If anyone has any questions, please, if you're on the webinar, you can go into the attendee chat and leave a question or a comment there, or you can again text at 646-206-5931. 646-506. 646-206-5931. So Maya, I would love to hear your thoughts about how do we actually move the country forward in a more unified way, and in how, as a member of Congress, which, as you know, is a perfect example of how the country is divided, and how, in your role and with your experience, do you believe you can be a voice in helping to, literally move this country to higher heights?
Yeah. So, Elijah did that well, because he always had the refrain that we're better than this. Basically calling on our better angels to shine a spotlight or a mirror in the face of America, to say that, this is ugliness. And we are absolutely better than this. You that his book of that same title will be actually coming out this summer, and so I will be promoting it. But that being said, in terms of taking the platform in Congress, I think that one thing that I absolutely want to do is, because the issue of domestic terrorism is very real, it's threatening many families in this country of all backgrounds. I do think that it is a national security issue. I believe that we should put forward a national preparedness initiative on domestic terrorism and hate crimes, and convene councils at the federal level, at the state and the local levels. I believe that we actually need guidelines and resources for communities because they don't know how to deal with these challenges. And those guidelines and resources should help to promote diversity and inclusion initiatives in schools, in communities. They should support these efforts. They should actually also provide information for people on families and institutions on how to respond when hate crimes and incivility happen within their purview. And so this is something that we have to take on as a nation. And I believe that the way we do it is by declaring it a national emergency. And I'm ready to lead that effort.
Great. We had a question via text. I can probably answer that, and you can add to it. The question was, where do I donate? There's two ways you can do that. If you have not gone to mayaforcongress.com, there's a couple of things you need to do. You need to sign up so that you are up to date with all the information you need about the campaign, but you also, more importantly, can donate there. You also can go to Higher Heights for America PAC, which many of you are already following, and you can see our endorsement of Maya. You can, there's a volunteer. Everything that's on Maya's website is on our website. So remember, higherheightsforamericapac.org, mayaforcongress.com. Unless there's another way you're taking donations. Any upcoming events in the next 2 days?
That's great. But also, I just want to point out that we also invite you to join us on Twitter at Maya for Congress, and also on Facebook at Maya for Congress.
Great. And then I guess I actually have a question, because what really resonated for me, and I think, again, when you have diverse backgrounds and diverse experiences and diversity at our decision-making table, they not only make better decisions, they also just approach issues and policy opportunities in a way that's different. So there's two things that really struck me. The two of us are similar age. I think I'm a little older by 1 year. Uh, but the notion that two things that African American women are, suffering from, a variety of health challenges that are under-resourced. I mean, under-researched. And some of that under-research is a public policy, has a direct correlation to public policy. So I'm
That's
overly fascinated around Black women and fibroids, Black women, and as you talk about alopecia and lupus, and then the notion of the fact that we are that generation that are either having children a little later, not having children, but caring for other young people in our lives, and frankly taking care of not only our parents but someone in our household. And so it's all kind of connected to African Americans and health. So would love for you to talk a little more. I mean, you spent a lot of time talking about, but just your perspective on why that, for, in addition to us wanting our full dollar, not 61 cents to every cent that a white man makes, but how us tackling our health disparity is such an imperative call to action in this time.
right. So it's imperative because, of course, for several reasons. We experience health disparities at greater rates, and those health disparities threaten our life expectancy. And so, when you die younger, you don't have the ability to truly live out your natural years, and so our contributions to this planet are cut short. I mean, we can do better. Unfortunately, there are some things that challenge us at greater rates. Everything. Well, as you well know, for 10 years I led an initiative called Leadership for Healthy Communities. It was a $16 million initiative of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And it was designed to focus on childhood obesity prevention, healthy eating, active living. But what we discovered in this time is that children of color, particularly Black girls and then Black women, are experiencing overweight and obesity at very high rates. Now, I struggle with this issue myself, so this is no finger pointing. This is just a simple fact that that state actually is associated with a lot of preventative chronic diseases that undermine our health. We don't know, but some research is now actually suggesting that it's also connected to this epidemic of higher death rates from breast cancer. And so, with that, there are a lot of things we don't know. We need the answers to them because we deserve to live long lives too. And that is why I'm committed to a Black women's health agenda. But you mentioned that, and that brought up another question or issue for me. And that is that this year is the centennial of the women's right to vote. The 7th congressional district that I am running for has been in existence for 227 years, and it has never had a woman representing it, ever. And so, should I win this, I would be the first ever Congresswoman representing the Maryland 7th Congressional District. Also, your listening audience should know that the Maryland federal delegation currently has no women representing it. Maryland has no women's voice in Congress. And that is a shame at this moment in time, because as you well know, with reproductive rights on the line, with voting rights on the line, with all of these things on the line that matter, healthcare on the line, that women, especially African American women, have a unique perspective on these things. And so, this race is absolutely has the potential to be history making in that regard.
Yeah. And interesting, I'm going to take the last two questions. I actually Googled, you're a year older than me. Or you say we're 9 months apart. So two questions that actually is a follow-up to health and interesting from two different participants, but the same question, which is we also need funding for mental health aspects in the lives of African Americans. I have worked in the field, and there are very limited studies on African experience. And the two questions, one is, will Maya make an effort on this? And then the second one that was via text is, what is your position on mental health and getting more African Americans access to mental health services?
Yeah. So my position is that it should be a part of a national single-payer universal health plan. And so under that healthy and safe communities prong that I mentioned as a part of my plan, I talk about having a payer health plan that not only covers preventative services, that not only covers physical and catastrophic health, but also covers mental health, addiction services, and all of the suite of services, dental, vision, all of the suite of services that we actually need in order to survive and thrive. One thing I did not talk about is my upbringing, and I usually talk about it. So let me just say this. I'm the fourth generation from slavery on my mother's side. My parents grew up in the Jim Crow South. They were basically neighbors. They lived next door to each other and knew each other all their lives. And so I grew up with stories of them telling us what it was like growing up in the Jim Crow South, having to have the black schools closed so that they could go pick cotton for other people's pockets. Having to drink out of the black water fountains, Negro only water fountains, having to sit in the Negro only section of the balcony in the local movie theater. And yet our lives are very different from that because my dad went into the Air Force and my brother, sister, and I, we literally ended up traveling across the country and around the world. And so I was always struck by the disparities that I saw. I was struck by the history and the marginalization that I continued to see. And I wanted to dedicate my career to finding solutions. That is why I majored in an undergrad at Prairie View A&M University. I got a master's in political science and I earned a PhD in political science, all with the purpose of focusing on how we could use policy to further of diversity, inclusion, and equity in the United States of America.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking some time off of the virtual campaign, on the physical campaign trail to join us on the virtual campaign trail this evening and sharing a little bit about your background, your experience, and your vision for Maryland Congressional District, House District 7, the state of Maryland and the country. And we need to ensure that we help Maya Rockeymoore Cummings lead at the polls on February 4th. And Maya, did you address the question I asked you, which is how is your name going to appear on the ballot?
No, so my name appears as Maya Rockeymoore Cummings.
Okay.
It's the longest name on the ballot. Yes, but because Cummings is the predominant, Rockeymoore is my official middle name. Cummings is my official last name. So I'm high and I'm long.
Great. So you shouldn't be able to miss her name. Tell your network. When we fire up Black women, we know we don't go to the polls alone. We bring our house, our block, our church, and our sorority. And we need to ensure that we are connecting with our networks in Baltimore and Baltimore County and Howard County to ensure that we are organizing our networks to the polls. So we have our marching orders. We are going to spread the word. We're going to donate. We're going to make calls. We can make calls from home. So again, if you are following us at Higher Heights for America PAC, you can connect with us and we will make sure you get call lists so you can call from home. If you are able to make it down to Baltimore and into the district, we need you to volunteer for GOTV weekend. That's Get Out the Vote weekend. Her campaign has a variety of trainings that are happening. We will send all this information out via email. And obviously, she needs volunteers on election day because this is, she said, 4 elections in a matter of 2 months. We need to ensure that we are pulling our neighbors out and making a vote plan to ensure that they don't miss election day, February 4th, 2020. So thank you for spending the evening with us. Thank you, Maya, for stepping off of the sidelines and boldly leading in the spirit of Shirley Chisholm, unbought and unbossed. And we are excited about the opportunity to send you to Washington to help to move this country to higher heights. So for those who are new to our community and new members, our goal over the next several months is ensure that we are giving Black women the tools they need to be engaged, informed, to take action as voters, and for us to ensure that we are supporting Black women that are running for office on the federal level, statewide executive, and the mayors of top 100 cities. So we encourage you to continue to be engaged as active members. Invite your network to be active members. If you are not an active member, y'all are active members, but tell your friends if they're not active members, they're missing quality conversations and connections with candidates like Maya, Rockeymoore, Cummings, and we have some other exciting things happening. So if we're not active, you're missing out. So we look forward to the series. We have some exciting conversations happening over the next couple of weeks. So we look forward to celebrating next Tuesday night with Maya Rockeymoore Cummings. This was paid for by Higher Heights for America PAC and authorized by Maya for Congress. Thank you.
Thank you.